Hello and welcome to Fluffy Stuff, a podcast about theory, practice, dreams and reality. I am Pav, the creative director of Boundless, and today I have some guests that aren't from the Boundless team. Go on then, you two, introduce yourselves. Who are you?
My name is Joel, co-founder of TCMO.
Hello, my name is Hallie, co-founder of TCMO.
Cool. And today, in case you haven't guessed it already, the thing that we're going to talk about is TCMO. Yeah, I'd love to hear you guys speak on, like, what was that process about? I know you've got like a bit of a founder story that's quite interesting. Maybe we could start there.
So essentially, for a while, I've always been wanting to have a community where we could really support each other, really like explore ideas and really like aim for the stars essentially, and really be able to have a space where you can feel safe and open and transparent, and really be around people that think in a similar way to you, that can really, tap into your full potential. So essentially, 2023 in May, I left my job to start the journey of essentially starting a community and essentially establishing TCMO. I drew the logo.
Can you tell us, what does TCMO stand for?
TCMO stands for the Collective Members Only. And the Collective Members Only really refers to having a collective mentality, and the members are part of the collective, are the only people that have that sense of collective mentality, and that is what essentially TCMO stands for, as it stands for community. But yeah, I left my job, really started to go into a lot of creative workshops and meeting a whole lot of new people, and we brought a couple members together, and their cousin joined along. She digitalized the logo, really added her creative flair and things and her experience. And we had our first event in December. It was an amazing experience. We managed to bring loads of creators together. And I'll let Haley talk about the rest of that experience.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. I think it was just like a bunch of us were like from different corners of London. We were like, do you know what? We want to create our own opportunities. We're kind of sick of waiting for opportunities. So we were like, let's do this launch event. From there, let's see where it goes. So we came together, we did this event. It ended up being amazing. It was an amalgamation of art, music. There was film exhibitions going on. There was musicians from all corners of London that came together and jammed together. And it was beautiful. And so we were like, if we can create something like this, this event, what else can we make? And so for us right now, we're like this kind of beautiful experiment of a bunch of different people from all corners of London trying to figure something out, and now we're in the space where we're like, all right, how can we make this sustainable? Yeah.
And obviously, like, so some of the stuff that's been happening is that we've collaborated now on a couple of different projects. So we work together at the South Bank, and we also work together where we are right now in the box in Crystal Palace Park. And like, that's been kind of part of this phase, as you said, of kind of like experimenting with this question of like, what is the collective and what can the collective do? And I guess like it'd be interesting to hear, I know we're in the middle of this right now, but like, what kind of stuff have you like been learning through that experience of like working collectively as a group of artists with different disciplines, how that's been in terms of like organizing it, in terms of like vision, like what have those processes look like, and what things have you feel like you've learned from those experiences?
I can talk about like us working as a group. I feel like each time we do it, we iterate, we're like, because everything is so from the ground up, we're like, oh, how can we make this a bit more easier for each individual to sort of input and feel like everyone has a chance to speak? So we've kind of like tried with some different systems, like maybe you have like a core team and a flex team, and maybe we could, maybe the core team can kind of help steer things and get projects over the line, and then the flex team are able to come in on the day of the events and help support. Obviously, like anything is going to be a challenge, because it's like you're going through the process of reiteration, but I think it's exciting. I feel like we have to remember that like we're at the beginning, and it's okay for us to like not be perfect and to like try all new things. And then obviously, like with our past experience working in different jobs that we have had, we've been able to sort of inject some elements that creatively had helped us make processes run more smoother. So we're like, oh yeah, we could do this, like what we did at our other job, and then kind of like weave in some processes and build from there.
And yeah, it really has been a journey of essentially just learning how to kind of innovate and adapt to essentially like knowing how to maintain a team as well as your own well-being, and maintaining a job and bills and all the rest of the responsibilities that come with also trying to have a team and really trying to aim high and achieve certain margins. It's really been a process of kind of trial and error about what works in terms of a routine, and again putting in systems that can help things kind of get from A to B. But yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve.
And like with those journeys that you've been going on specifically, what do you think has been, like, you named a few things there, what do you think has been like the biggest challenge in terms of like developing this model, as you say, from the ground up, and like working around like people's schedules and lives and that kind of stuff? Like, but what kind of thing do you think has been like the biggest challenge that you've faced so far?
It's essentially like, it feels like going through seasons, and throughout all of those seasons, essentially trying to maintain that sense of tenacity, and keeping the eye on the prize and keeping an eye on the vision, and knowing how to move with how life is moving at that present moment in time for everyone, because everyone has their own lives and as well as their own responsibilities that they're trying to maintain, because we're also having to survive alongside it. But essentially the biggest thing that has been a learning curve from that experience is essentially just knowing how to adapt and change things, be able to meeting people where they are.
Yeah, I agree with what Joel was saying. I think adapting is really hard. I think going through the different seasons of, like, sometimes we have pockets where all of us have a lot of free time on our hands. And then right now we're going through a season where some of us are, like, we're entering full-time jobs for the first time, and that's a new experience to sort of go through. And so, like Joel said, it is about us kind of moving with tenacity in mind, and knowing that, like, if we stop this, it's like, the gold is gone, and that we can still survive through different things. Yeah.
And I think that, like, it's part of the really, like, exciting thing about this piece of work, because by being committed to the collective, as distinct from being committed necessarily to a very specific type of work, what that means is that you're investigating questions about how it can live sustainably in people's lives, and it has to be able to as much as the collective means everyone in the collective contributes, it also means that the collective has to also work out how to hold people through periods that are maybe not like the easiest. And like, I think that, like, when you're engaging in like partner working, for example, there's structures that you're engaging with how other people work, which might invite you to kind of like conform to their models. But actually what you're building is an innovative model, which requires like a level of I guess like care and time to build. And like, I think that like there's a confidence that requires from you, which is also difficult when you're at the beginning of something, right? But I think that like trusting in the fact that like the thing that we know that is our North Star is the kind of like the collective care of people as humans, as artists, as people who are trying to navigate like this city, this reality, all them things. That's the practice, right? And that could take many different forms, but that's actually going to keep you much more robust than like saying, for example, like we're an event management company and the only metric for success is how do we do the biggest events, for example. You have a different North Star, and that's a really exciting thing. So what is something that you are excited about as a possibility for TCMO that hasn't happened yet?
I would say the biggest thing that I'm excited for as a possibility that hasn't happened yet is really exploring our creativity together, really pushing it out into the world and really seeing how that can manifest and what that would look like. Because we've been building the skills of working together and having that sense of synergy. But in terms of really implementing our talents and putting them together on a digestible form of art, we can definitely explore that more. And then once we go down that road of essentially collaborating with each other to achieve such goals, seeing how that can expand into things that could also essentially create a legacy in the long run is also very interesting.
Yeah, I like that one. Legacy. It would be cool for us to sort of build that. I think this experiment, I'd love for it to kind of form into something that is sustainable. And I'd love to, like, even coming down today, I was like, wow, it actually feels amazing to be here with friends and to like work with friends and family and like people that I love and care for. So it's nice because it feels like the work that you're producing, it feels right. And sometimes that is missing in the corporate world, or sometimes it feels like it's missing. It could be missing in any role that you're in. I think for me, the dream would be to create something sustainable, to get everyone paid, and then to build something that feels like it can fuel and touch everyone that works in it, and to do it authentically, and for it to be done with care.
Yeah, definitely. No, they all those things really resonate. One thing that comes to mind actually to the first thing that you said, Joelle, about like having a space to explore your creative practice together is that I wonder if one thing that's in your future to be thinking about is like residencies, like as in not necessarily residencies meaning like the office that you had, but residentials meaning that like you go away together somewhere for a week with the funding that means that you can like afford to take a week out of your normal lives, maybe go somewhere that's like different to where you normally are, and just the only purpose of being there is that kind of creative exploration. And I also think that I'm really interested in this question about legacy, because I think that like one thing that we experience quite a lot, especially in the kind of community side of our sector, is like people coming in to do something like one time and then they go. And like I think that often means is that like the kind of like value proposition, or like the extent to which like people are actually like building like trust with communities, or like building like relationships that mean that people can like not just have an experience but actually develop a practice. That kind of stuff is what we need in order to keep nourishing the sector, especially as like arts funding is like getting like it's struggling and all those kind of things. And so like I think thinking about like even like how you in every context that you show up like are like sharing your practice, networking people, like how you are introducing people to different ways of doing stuff, but also to people that they wouldn't have otherwise met. Those things that you naturally do are building towards legacy. And I think part of the thing that's interesting to think about for me in terms of legacy is that like often when we talk about legacy building, we talk about what I think of as like monument building, which I don't think is actually very useful, because what that is kind of the like, let's build a statue because we've been like, so everyone can see that we've been doing it for time, but it's like, it doesn't really help anyone, right? Whereas like what I'm interested in is the idea of like building gardens instead of monuments. And like one of the things that happens in a garden that doesn't happen in a monument is that it's much less controlled. You plant seeds, but not everything grows. Things don't like, every season is different, all this kind of stuff, right? And part of the thing about legacy is understanding that like what legacy might mean for TCMO is like people that met at a TCMO event at the South Bank, at Crystal Palace, at whatever, go off and do their own thing. And that might not feel like legacy because it might feel separate, but actually by being the fertile soil where that thing could grow, that's the legacy. And like how you then, if you want to storytell about that kind of process is a thing that I think you guys could creatively like do really well.
Yeah. I feel like also a lot of us, like how we met has been like, I feel like, like Joel was like, I have this idea, but I feel like a lot of us had this feeling ruminating in us, and it felt like at different points we were bound to meet each other, whether it was like a Solola's music program. We did like a music program where Joel met Tatiana, who was taking photos, and then introduced us to Tricky, and he's a music producer, you know. And even so, you know, like at the Yard, you know, I met Havadni there, met Maya there, and then you kind of see all of the kind of the worlds being connected. And also when the feeling that you get from these programs, I want the same thing for the collective and kind of the work that we do. And I feel like that in itself is legacy. It's like it's the conversations you have outside of the building, it's the connections you make outside of the program that feels like legacy, because it then becomes tangible, and then that is gold, what people can make after that. So I feel like it's nice, and it's nice that we're creating some of that. Some of our events, like we had Darcy and Doella, now they're doing bits together, they're collaborating, making music and doing their own events. So I'd love for that to keep rippling.
100%. Coming off what Haley said in terms of like how legacy can also compile and move forward, and how that can move on with the people, because TCMO is essentially a mentality. It's that collective thinking of how we can all come together to create things that are nourishing and fulfilling for people, that could really open their eyes to what is possible, and how we can really channel our creativity to create experiences that are good for people. And the way I can see that TCMO can continue on as a legacy is how we can continue to do that, and the cause just grows as we meet more creative people, as we build a larger community, as we use our events to bring people together, as we really express our creativity and all have it bring together in a nice, lovely package that's called TCMO, and have it live on. So
Lovely. Okay, cool. I feel like that was a really useful like chat about like where you've come from and like some of the stuff that you've been doing, but also like where some of the thinking is and where you want to be going. I guess as like a final point, is there anything that like you would like to like spotlight that's maybe like coming up for anyone, or is there any like artists that you want to shout, or yeah, anything like that?
So upcoming, we have Darcy Salt performing on our Sunday event at the Box. Amazing performer. We'd love to shout her out. Working with her has been great, and seeing her come down to our first performance, our first event, and performing there, and we've maintained that connection, and we've come to her events and shown support, and she's been a frequent collaborator and a familiar face. So yeah, definitely want to shout out Darcy Salt. So.
Yeah, we've got some exciting events happening soon. We're in the planning stages of things, but it's looking exciting. Hopefully some stuff happening for Halloween, so it'll be a bit spooky. But Prince of Peckham, yeah.
Prince of Peckham in Halloween.
Yeah.
That sounds live. Okay, cool. And people can find you where?
Collective members only on Instagram. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, Instagram, and I said Instagram, LinkedIn. We're all on there. So yeah.
Wicked. Great. Thank you. Lovely to talk to you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.